아니, Professor Choi, 잘 들리시나요? 잘 들리시나요?
예, 잘 들립니다. 예.
아, 네. 저희 지금 3시 3분인데요.
예.
무료 에세이 특강 지금 수업을 3시 5분에 시작을 하도록 하겠습니다. 네. 지금 들어오신 분들, 지금 줌으로 들어오시는 분들도 계시고, 그 다음에 지금 유튜브 라이브로 들어오시는 분들이 계시는데, 한 가지 참고하셔야 될 부분이 지금 줌에서 이제 유튜브로 송출되는 과정 속에서 한 딜레이가 한 20초?
20 minutes delay. Okay. Yeah.
그 정도 딜레이가 있기
seconds.
때문에
예.
그 부분을 참고해 주시면 좋을 것 같아요. 네.
아, 예.
지금 유튜브로 들어오시는 분들도 그 부분 참고해 주시면 좋을 것 같아요. 지금 줌으로 들어오신 분들은 이게 실시간으로 나갈 텐데 유튜브로 들어오신 분들은 약간의 딜레이가 있다는 점 참고해 주시면 감사하겠습니다. 3시 5분에 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 네, 지금 3시 5분이라서 지금 시작하는 게 좋을 것 같고요. 네, 정식으로 인사를 드리겠습니다. 안녕하세요. 네, 저는 그 뮤랭아카데미의 대표 강사 튜터 팀이라고 합니다. 네, 안녕하세요. 네, 반갑습니다. 네, 오늘 그 저번 주에 저희가 이제 SAT 리딩 무료 특강 이어서 이제 오늘은 우리 최순필 교수님의 에세이 라이팅 무료 특강 이제 진행을 할 텐데요. 네, 그 저번 주에 안 들어오시고 이제 오늘 처음 저희를 이제 뵙는 분들이 계셔서 간단하게 저에 대해서 이제 소개를 하고 그다음에 제가 이제 그 최순필 교수님에 대해서 간단하게 이제 프로필 소개를 해드리고 최순필 교수님께서 이제 무료 특강을 진행하시도록 하겠습니다. 네, 그래서 저는 지금 학부를 제가 존스 홉킨스 학부를 나왔고요. 거기서 이제 공중보건학과를 전공했고요. 고등학교 때까지는 제가 계속 해외에서 살았었어요. 그래서 해외에서 살았던 경험이 거의 20년 넘고요. 그 고등학교 같은 경우에는 제가 그 American International School of Vienna에서 IB 과정을 이수해서 이제 거기서 이제 미국으로 넘어가서 학부를 존스 홉킨스 졸업하고 지금 제가 이제 로스쿨을 제가 입학을 해야 되는데 합격을 해놓은 상태예요. 근데 이제 입학을 제가 내년에 하기 때문에 그때까지 제가 디퍼를 해놓은 상태라서 제가 원래 재작년에 지금 합격을 해놨는데 계속 디퍼를 했어요. 제가 워낙 가르치는 걸 좋아해서 지금 그러면 계속 여기 남아서 가르치지 않을까라는 생각도 드는데 그건 잘 모르겠고요. 일단은 네, 남은 기간 동안에 학생들을 열심히 열정적으로 지금 가르치려고 하고 있습니다. 네, 그래서 제가 작년부터 원래 튜터팀 지금 튜터팀이라는 제가 이제 온라인 학원을 설립했었는데요. 계속 제가 혼자서 해왔다가 너무 이제 힘들어갖고 물론 제가 이제 좋은 수업들 뭐 북클럽이나 뭐 에세이 라이팅 수업이나 SAT 리딩 수업이나 NCT 문법 수업 같은 것들을 제가 좋은 수업들을 이제 많이 제공을 하긴 했는데 약간 그 체계적인 측면에서는 뭔가 조금 딸리는 게 있어서 이번 올해 8월부터는 이제 뮤랭 아카데미라고 이제 저희가 이제 새롭게 출발해서 이제 더 직원도 이렇게 뽑아서 조금 더 체계적인 관리 시스템이 들어간 온라인 학원을 지금 이제 운영하고 있어요. 네, 그래서 오늘 저번 주에도 그렇고 오늘도 그렇고 다음 주에는 저희가 이제 저희 뮤랭 아카데미 신학기에 이제 그 세미나가 있을 텐데요. 그 많이 관심 주시면 감사하겠고요. 8월 말부터는 이제 정식으로 저희가 이제 온라인 수업을 진행을 할 거예요. 그래서 그 부분에 대해서도 제가 오늘 에세이 무료 특강 끝날 시점에 다시 한번 얘기 드릴 테니까 일단 그 정도만 아시면 될 것 같고요. 그 최순필 교수님도 이제 저랑 같이 가르치실 텐데요. 최순필 교수님은 일단 저보다 경력이 훨씬 더 많으셔요. 물론 저도 이제 그 가르치는 경력이 있긴 있지만 최순필 교수님은 저보다 거의 2배이시죠. 예. 그 에세이 라이팅 같은 경우에는 뭐 대학 원서 에세이 첨삭해 주신 경력이 뭐 거의 20년이시죠? 네,
예,
교수님.
그 정도 됩니다.
그 정도가 되시죠. 네. 그래서 뭐 지금 교수님께서는 이제 인디애나 대학교 과학 철학 이제 석사 과정을 마치시고 미주리 대학교에서 이제 철학 박사 과정도 마치시고 카이스트랑 고려대에서 초빙 교수로 이제 그 철학과 논리학, 윤리학을 이제 영어로 강의하신 경력이 있으셔요. 네, 그래서 에세이 라이팅 같은 경우에는 제가 생각했을 때는 최순필 교수님이 굉장히 그 첨삭해 주시는 것만 봐도 오늘도 무료 특강에서 보실 텐데 첨삭하는 그 수준이 완전 달라요. 네, 굉장히 문장 하나씩 이렇게 테이크 어파트해서 정말 세밀하게 들어가서 단어부터 이렇게 문장 그다음 패러그래프 이렇게 전체적인 픽처에서 정말 세밀하게 들어가서 단어 하나하나까지 굉장히 잘 고쳐주시기 때문에 오늘 들어오시는 그 아마 이제 학부모님도 들어오셨을 거라고 저는 생각하는데 학생들도 굉장히 많은 걸 가져갈 거라고 저는 생각하기 때문에 정말 도움이 되는 유용한 시간이 될 거라고 저는 믿고 있습니다. 네. 그래서 잠시 제가 학생들에게 최순필 교수님에게 시작하시기 전에 제가 학생들에게 영어로 잠깐 얘기를 할 텐데 제가 이미 알고 있는 학생들도 있어서 그래서 So guys, I just want to say really briefly that today you have the privilege of listening to Professor Choi giving a lecture on essay writing. This man is really good. He's really skilled and experienced when it comes to teaching and also revising essays, not just college essays, but I would say all variety of essays. So I think you'll be able to gain a lot from this class the next 2 hours. And I hope that you guys will participate actively through the next 2 hours. I know some of you, Dan, Yechan, Sunjin, Junsu, Daniel, Cloris, all of you guys should be actively participating. when Professor Choi asks a question. So that would be much appreciated. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to him, and I will see you guys towards the end of class again. 네, 교수님 진행하시면 될 것 같습니다.
Yeah, thank you for introduction, Tim. 한국말로 하나요? 영어로 다 하나요? What do you think is a better thing to do?
영어로 하시는 게 좋을 것 같습니다.
Okay,
네.
okay. Let's get started. Okay, hello guys. This is Phil Choi. This is probably the first, some of you, this is the first time for you to see me as an instructor of English essays. I have lived in the United States for 16 years, including about 6 to 7 years of studying from master's degree to PhD. But after that, I spent almost like 9 years teaching at the University of Missouri and the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, mostly teaching ethics, philosophy, and philosophy of science. Of course, in those years, I had to grade almost like 6,000 essays turned in by college students. So it has become my kind of primary job. But at the same time, I got a chance because of my skill. Some people came over to me suggesting that I teach essay writing to some Korean students studying in the US as a high school student or college students. That's how it started. So I ended up teaching high school students or middle school students preparing for basically entrance exams or qualification exams to famous boarding schools such as Exeter Academy, Phillips Academy, Andover, as you are probably familiar with, or Lawrenceville Academy, St. Paul, Choate, Rosemary, and Hull, simply called the Choate. I have helped them to advance to these schools, mostly such that they could stand out as the best essay writer in their school, graduating as, in cum laude or whatever, valedictorian over the years. And some of them advanced to national, basically US essay contest. I'm talking about almost 15 years ago though, but they didn't get the first prize. If they did, I probably wouldn't be here, but they got the second prize, at least in a nationwide essay contest. That one was good enough for them to advance to Ivy League schools without anything else, I can assure you. Or most recently, before the pandemic, I have helped some students to get the first prize in basically national essay contest in South Korea, mostly sponsored by Korea Herald. It's an English newspaper, and basically sponsored by British embassy. So I think I'm well experienced in this area. My method is very different from those adopted or employed by English teachers in this country. Well, it's a little bit of disappointment because my method is not unusual in the United States. If you happen to meet English teachers working at Andover or St. Paul, you'll notice that my method is almost similar or very similar to those methods used by those teachers. Well, these teachers are highly educated too. Like if you happen to talk to teachers at those schools, you'll notice they got PhD in English literature from Princeton or Yale, pretty typical. So these schools, or Deerfield became a very recognized recently for their writing program. Deerfield now become one of the 3 best boarding schools in the US. And Deerfield is very famous for their writing program. So if you want to get into the high school, you have to be very good, and you should read a lot of books to get in there. And they're proud of their students. You know, they also managed to get many of their students to top schools in the US. So many of my students, of course, got into Deerfield. So I not only taught them to write in excellence, but also help them to get into, you know, top universities in the US or those in the Britain, like Oxford or Cambridge. So if you're willing to basically pursue this course of academic career, you are welcome to join me, because I'm going to teach you a 2-year session such that if you start from the bottom to all the way down to the top over the course of 2 years, you should be able to basically write an academic essay as on par or as good as those written by college students attending, well, basically top-notch schools in the US. That's my goal, and I have done it in the US. So you just have to follow my instructions. Of course, practice, comes down to your own effort, but I'll make sure that you do a proper practice every week you have attended my online class. Okay, let me begin. For this course today, by the way, 7 students have submitted their essays to me. And I'm today, well, mostly due to the limitation of time, I'm going to talk about 5 of them. Of course, these 7 essays will be returned to you, fully modified, corrected, and with full of feedbacks. So don't worry about it. But, basically, I'm just going to talk about these 5 essays such that you have a hint of what my method will be like for the next 2 years. So basically, I am going to pull out some common features found among these 5 essays. And let me just talk about the first thing, the unusual or common features that I found among these 7 essays written by some of you now listening to this program. Now, number 1 is most of the essays I found are not clear. Of course, you probably say, clear, how do you know? Or how clear can you say? Is there any objective measurement or standard to basically, allows you to say this is how much clear, how much unclear? Of course, many educators in the US will admit that clarity is a subjective factor or subjective area. However, about 30 years ago, when professors and high school instructors tried to come up with a new program to teach their students writing, they came up with an idea which is quite simplistic. This is not me. This is something top educators in the US came up with almost 30 years ago, according to which, if you happen to have younger brothers and sisters or younger friends, usually by 2 years, say if you're 15 years old, I'm talking about 13-year-old brother, 13-year-old friend. Once you finish your essay in English and give it to your friend or younger brother or sister, given that they understand English in a common level, then ask their opinion. Okay. Then if your younger brother or sister say, I don't follow, I don't understand what you have written here. Okay. I don't get it. I don't see why you come up with such a conclusion. Then your essay is far from clear. Because this is a common conception among Koreans that, oh, just because you're, turning in your essay to usually more, educators who are more educated than you are, you think that it's okay. You should be able to write, essays that are very difficult to understand, but actually it's the other way around. This method or standard is commonly adopted by top university professors as well. If somebody who is younger than you are by 2 years cannot understand or cannot follow whatever you wrote down in your essay, then your essay is simply not clear. Okay? That's the simple method. They should be able to follow. Okay, then how do you avoid being unclear, basically? How do you avoid writing your essay, unclear? That's something I'm going to talk about in the following weeks. But anyway, hopefully I could give you some hints of what it means by clear essay. And there's a very simple way to tell you when the essay is clear enough. Now, second one is, as I found among these 7 essays, most students just used expressions in the topic. Topic is many ways called the topic prompt. Some people just use the nouns, adjectives, the same way they are mentioned in the topic, okay, in your essay. In this topic, basically the topic for today's topic is disagreement is necessary for progress, right? Simple question. Now, this disagreement and progress, these two terms are, central terms in this essay topic, right? And it's not surprising that almost all the students basically used these terms without thinking. Okay, they just repeatedly, some of you just just put down these words, okay? And you use these words over and over and over again. So many of you, to my surprise, gave me essays of over 400 words. I said 400 words maximum, but many turn in their essays with more than 400 words. However, these essays are filled with words, disagreement, progress. These are in the same essay, repeated more than 10 times, in some cases 20 times, okay? That's the big issue here. Now, I'm gonna explain to you why this is the big issue. Why, if you do this in your essay automatically disqualifies, by which I mean your essay is considered unclear essay. Now, I could give you an example. If you advance to good high schools or colleges in the US or Britain, you'll be given a topic. You'll be as long as some reading assignment. Say they'll ask you to read some textbooks or some books, independent reading assignment, like typically that exceeds over like 100 pages a week. In some cases, 200 pages a week, okay? 200 pages. And teachers will ask you to summarize what you have read into one single page. And they tell you that the summary will not exceed, no matter what, exceed 400 words. It's typically one page. So you're going to have to summarize 100 pages into one single page, okay? Then you'll end up, if you're aiming at A or A+, you should aim at basically putting in the central argument, central claim made by the author ignoring all the insignificant issues. You have to decide which one is the most important. Once you decide which one is his central idea or argument, then the next step is how to put it down. Now, you have only 400 words to work with, okay? And you have to basically summarize all the details, all the exceptions within 400 words. Then you realize that if you're gonna use, say, suppose that the author's name is John like Tom Johnson, okay? Suppose that his name is Tom Johnson. If you start saying Professor Johnson, Professor Johnson, Professor Johnson several times, you end up wasting your space, precious space, just putting down someone else's names. The same goes for using pronouns such as he. Well, Professor Johnson is he, but it doesn't matter if it's she. If you're gonna use she or he more than 10 times, 20 times in the 400-word essay, you're wasting your precious space. Basically, you are doing damages to the quality of your essay. So if you're gonna write a top quality essay, you should minimize the number of pronouns such as he, they, Professor X as much as possible. Yeah. How do you do it? Yeah, you can do it because many high school students attending these schools can do it. So in some cases, I have seen some students just using he only, just the author of the name, just 3 times in the entire essay. You should do the same thing, okay? It's doable, okay? So you might think, okay, the topic is disagreement is not necessary for progress. Now, if you're trying to write a good essay within 400-word limit, then you should not use probably disagreement or progress more than 5 times in the entire essay. Maybe 3 times is okay. Because this is what I mean by repetition. Repetition of words, nouns, names, places. It all applies to every repetition in your essay. So even though some of you gave me an essay longer than, say, 400 words, these essays are filled with the same word over and over, like 20 times. So actually, these students did not say a lot. It's almost empty because the content matters. Why? Basically, the prompt is disagreement is necessary for progress. Do you agree or disagree? If you disagree or agree, for what reason? For reason means you're supposed to present your own idea, your own perspective. Now, out of 3 students, only 1 managed to do a little bit of it. Basically, 1 student managed to present, I don't know if it was he or she, her idea, okay? Basically, so the other students failed miserably because there's nothing that is similar to your own opinion, your own thought, okay? So basically, if you want to present your own idea, the first step you have to do is to avoid all the repetitions of the words. This applies to even verbs like do, go, think, believe. If you use words such as believe or think more than 3 times in your essay, you're failing already because many high school students in the US who are believed to be excellent do not do that at all. They just use like believe or think only about 2 or 3 times in the 400-word essay, okay? Why? Your language reflects your thoughts. That's why. So the more, I'm not talking about high-level vocabulary. You don't have to use some bizarre, very unusual, high-level words. No. Instead of using believe, I say something else. I consider, or in my view, yeah. So instead of using believe, you could say view. Yeah, some students did it, but the problem is they overuse them again, repeating the same word over and over again. Okay, that's the primary issue here. So when many teachers start teaching English writing in those English-speaking countries, they usually say this, rephrase, by which I mean, do not use the same expressions more than once in your essay. You always have to use different set of words expressing the same thoughts, actually. Yeah. Let me give you just an example. Like instead of say, you might say, oh, I go to school every day. So if you're writing about it, that I went to school Sunday morning, I went to my friend's house Monday evening. So you end up using went several times. But if you happen to read an essay written by top students in the US, you'll find that the student used, instead of went, he used walked, or strolled, or I rode a bike to my friends, or my mom gave me a ride to my friends, or I took the subway train to get to my friends. That's what I mean by rephrase. You avoid using the same verbs and adjectives and adverbs. Try to use a variety of words. Now, so that is what number 3, what you see on your screen says. Do not use the same noun or verb more than twice in your essay. If you try to do it consciously, you should be able to eventually change the way you think in English. Yeah, this is exactly the reason why the teachers and professors 30 years ago came up with a method basically to promote the skills of English writing. Basically, you just try to use a variety of words to express the same idea. Okay, so that has been covered. And then finally, use actual concrete examples. Concrete examples, by which I mean examples with real names of persons, places, and times. Out of 7 students, only 1 did it. Yeah, the 6 students just mentioned not even 1 real name or 1 real place or time. Okay, why so? Let me explain why you're going to have to use concrete examples. This is actually what I felt when I was studying in the US as a grad student when I was like 30 years ago. Yeah, I wrote much like you did, actually, even though I was 30 years ago, okay, 30 years, years old. I used to write just like some of you did. But the professors grading my essay always returned it with, C or B, telling me that, hey, I mean, I really I don't want to disappoint you, but, I cannot follow you. What? Yeah, they said they're like professors getting PhD in Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge, but they're telling me that they cannot understand my essay. Because they said, so I said, I don't understand what you mean. I think I used correct words. I don't think I made many grammatical mistakes. They said, no, you're okay with that. However, I couldn't follow you because you didn't have any evidence to support your claim, to support your answer. Evidence usually means actual evidence, something factual such that the other people could see and judge. If you're just talking about what's in your mind, there's no way for others to understand what you're talking about. Okay? You always have to provide a concrete example which you find the closest or similar to what you have in mind. That's how they know. That's how judges, professors, teachers know what you're thinking about. So by real names or peoples or persons, I mean, say, 17th century, 18th century Britain, Germany, US, or even Joseon Dynasty. Real names such as, like the President Washington, President Lincoln, Seonjo Daewang, whatever, King Seonjo, the Korean king of E Dynasty or E Kingdom, whatever you call it. These are concrete examples. Think about it. If politicians say, oh, in Korea, people are, arguing with each other, they're fighting each other all the time, there's a confusion going on. So some politicians suggest, oh, we can fix it. People say, how? Well, I unite people, then this no longer happens. The problem is, how do you unite people? That's the issue here. Say, disagreement is necessary for progress. Many students, some of you just said, oh, disagreement is something that allows people to express their own opinions in a free environment without no coerce or force acted upon them. Then eventually they should basically reach an agreement peacefully such that some kind of improvement or progress happens. And many of you just repeat this point over and over and over again. But this actually lacks substance. How do you do it? So let me basically use a concrete example. If I were you, I'll tell you what you should do. There are tons of examples out there, okay? So only 1 out of 7 managed to do this. So I think I'm going to have to talk about a little bit, okay? So the topic is disagreement is necessary for progress. How do you do it? What kind of examples, concrete examples, should you provide to support your answer? Answer could mean, I agree, I disagree. Interestingly enough, no one says, I disagree. Really? So basically, whenever there is a disagreement among people, okay, you always get a good result out of it. Read history. So you just tend to emphasize just an abstract thinking. That's why you didn't get anything out of it. That's why I have to put down the feedback words, empty, 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 empty conclusion, empty claims. Why? It lacks factual support. I think there's another reason why almost 6 out of 7 failed to come up with a good answer. This is because when you tackle this issue, many of you just said, concentrate on the word disagreement, but no one concentrate on the other word, progress. It's as if when the topics, when the topic includes progress, you seem to believe that, I understand exactly what that progress means. As if everybody when you hear the word progress, everybody agrees with it. Are you sure? Are you sure? What kind of progress? No one actually was clear enough to talk about what kind of progress you are talking about. do you ever believe in moral progress? Do you think humans 300 years ago were morally superior to us in the 21st century? What about social progress? Yeah, we now have democracy. We now believe that women have to have the same freedom, political freedom, or liberty, just as men are. Okay, so many people seem to believe that we are socially progressing. But some people disagree with it. Actually, some very famous professors disagree with this idea. Exactly. Yeah. They have an excellent argument, actually refuting our common belief that we are actually socially progressing. What about scientific progress? Now, this is something many of you are surely agreeing with, basically. Yeah, because 100 years ago, there was no such thing as smartphones. There was no such thing as airplanes, right? Computers. But once you think about moral progress, probably many people would disagree. Why? Just look around. Even in the 20th century, like how many years ago, Abraham Lincoln proclaimed that, slavery is over in the US? 150 years ago, almost 200 years ago. Now, look at the Black people. How are they? Are they treated equally as white people now? What about the other countries? Do you think many people are treating other people equally? So many people actually doubt that we have moral progress. We do not. Actually, many famous professors believe that we do not make any moral progress at all. So basically, when you tackle this issue, disagreement is necessary for progress. You should make clear what progress are you talking about. Are you talking about scientific progress, moral progress, social progress, or political progress? All of you failed in this area, okay? Because, my goal is for, and is to help you to reach the same level as the other, students your age studying in the English-speaking countries. Now, I know that many 7th graders and 9th graders in the US could write an essay in which they discuss specifically moral progress or scientific progress. Yes. Yeah. So basically, the way you deal with the topic is not concrete enough. You fail to. Probably the reason that you didn't come up with the concrete examples is because you didn't think that this topic is basically, is about just everything. But whenever you see topics like this, you need to narrow down. You choose, I think I choose to write about scientific progress. Then let me talk about what if you choose to write about scientific progress. Then you should say, let me discuss scientific progress and let's see if disagreement among scientists is necessary for scientific progress. That's the first step you should have made. Then your essay becomes clear enough. But many of you did not get there. That's why your essay is blurry, full of abstract nouns, such that many teachers in the US or Great Britain will complain, I don't follow you in this essay. It's like murky, cloudy. I don't know where you're going, they'll say to you, okay? I don't care what high school teachers in Korea are talking to you about this. I don't care. You'll see when you study in the US in a very good institution. They'll tell you just the way I'm telling you now. So you make sure that you provide concrete examples. Okay, then what kind of concrete examples? Let me briefly talk about what concrete example should you give in case that you choose to write about scientific progress? Okay, so what if I'm going to talk about scientific progress? Then you come back to the topic. Disagreement is necessary for scientific progress, right? This is first step of rephrasing. You move on to the next level. You just don't repeat the same thing over and over again. Now, then, basically science is, some of you actually were correct pointing out that usually science runs by the rule of what? Peer review, agreement among scientists. Yes, they need to reach an agreement, okay? When someone comes with an evidence, with a new theory or a hypothesis, they need to reach an agreement. By what? Examining the person's evidence, factual evidence. Sometimes mathematics plays a role here, but evidence. Then, you think this is concrete enough? No. Then you have to think about what kind of actual cases could you use to support your answer, just in case you say, yes, I agree. Yeah, disagreement is necessary for progress. In this case, disagreement among scientists is necessary for scientific progress. Then you try to, basically, you just type down, those words in a Google search engine. Then you'll come up with a tons of stuff. Let me give you one example. I would like to say, and some of you are probably good enough to read or interested in science or history of science. Now, in the early 17th century in Europe, many so-called chemists are disputing what exactly is and how does combustion proceed? What's causing combustion? Combustion, yeah, like burning, right? The wood is burning, the burning, basically, burning phenomenon. What's causing it? Okay. Now, some famous chemists came up with an idea. It's called an hypothesis. Some say, oh yeah, combustion takes place whenever the one compound, chemical compound, combines with another particle. It's so small, we cannot see it, but it's called phlogiston. Very small, that you cannot see it. But, when the chemical compound combined with phlogiston, it burns. So that's the birth of phlogiston theory. Okay, just, just listen a bit more, okay? You might not like it, but anyway. And then, seems like for a while, this theory was accepted by scientists, okay? However, this phlogiston theory couldn't explain one thing, because according to the phlogiston theory, it explains the combustion well, because once the compound combines with the phlogiston, it loses its weight after the burning. Like you get to see ashes, so to speak. However, soon they found out that when some physical chemical compound burns, it actually gains weight. Yeah, some compounds gain weight when it's burned. They couldn't explain it at all with the combustion theory. Okay, so they got a big problem. Okay, so disagreement among scientists could occur again. Okay, they reach an agreement, but the agreement finally breaks out. They argue with each other all over again. And then basically, okay, so if you're looking for this story, you'll find famous names like Lavoisier or Thomas Dalton, some famous names in the history of chemistry. But eventually, this disagreement led to the discovery of, okay, can anybody here tell me what did scientists discover after this dispute? Can anybody tell me? Oxygen. Oxygen, yeah. You might think this is far-fetched. No. This is the type of concrete examples from science, history of science, that some middle school students came up with for their essays. Yes, they talk about the discovery of oxygen. And it stemmed from their dispute over phlogiston theory, which was believed to be the very accurate and widely accepted theory for combustion in the early 17th century. It was successful for a while, but it was full of, blemishes. So dispute occurs again, and then eventually, Lavoisier came up with his own theory of oxygen. When physical compound, basic chemical compound combines with oxygen, it burns. Yes. Then it turned out to be very successful. And this is pretty close to as we know it by now. Discovery of oxygen. So basically, if you have written down so far, you probably have to put down like how many lines? Probably 10 to 12 lines at least, or up to 20 lines in your essay. If you did, okay, like I said, your essay will easily get A or A+. Yes. You have to talk about, say, because you choose to talk about scientific progress and the role of disagreement among scientists. So how do you see how I narrowed down the topic? You're not just talk about disagreement among any people. Are you talking about disagreement among politicians? Are you talking about disagreement among religious leaders? Are you talking about disagreement with what? Among what? Morality? Are we talking about moral issues here? Or are we talking about, do we have to go to the mountains for our vacation this summer? Or I like to go to the sea. I like to go to the beaches for our vacation. So your family members end up arguing with each other. Your father says, we gotta go to the mountains. Your mother say, we gotta go to the beaches. That's a disagreement. Does that disagreement usually lead to a good outcome all the time? Do we? Oh, here's a question. Are we going to learn how to write like Nietzsche? No, we are going to write like scientists, professors, because many high school students in, say, Andover, St. Paul, do write like professional scientists and professional professors. Yes, but we don't have to use, high level vocabulary. We don't have to do an in-depth research taking many, many hours. So let me give you another example here. Okay, now, if you choose to talk about disagreement, now I'm gonna use an exact example from history. We all know what President Lincoln did in the late, around 1860, yes. He abolished slavery in the US, right? So if you take a short research by just Googling, you'll see that, actually, leaders from the Union to the north, from the north, and the leaders from the South, Confederates, came to Washington, D.C. to discuss these issues. Yes. Because the people from the South thought that they would suffer major setbacks if they agree with what the North Union says. So they made a convene, basically they meet and talk. Do they reach an agreement? I think the discussion that took place in the Capitol, the Congress building in the Washington, D.C., okay, they didn't use any force. Both sides were given free speech, free opportunity to express their opinions. Did they reach any agreement? No. How do you know? 1 year later, civil war took place. They killed each other. So even though they did provide the room for discussion, okay, and then disagreement took place between South and North, North and South. Many of you wrote that that kind of thing happens, you will see the harmonious, good outcome out of it. No, we saw a devastating result. Civil war broke out, and Americans killed each other for many years. More than 500,000 are killed. And we do still see that still, racial discrimination completely disappeared? No, it didn't. Yeah, it got much better than in the past, but racial discrimination still persists. Of course, probably slavery no longer exists. So in this sense, you say, this is the social progress we talk about. Yeah, but only after the Civil War. So basically, if you choose to write about Civil War, then you should say, disagreement among politicians and voters in this sense, and is necessary for social progress. Where am I talking about? In the United States. Let me talk about the another example. Say you choose to talk about 조선시대, just before the outbreak of what? 임진왜란? The Japanese invasion of Joseon dynasty, right? In the late 16th century. Is it 16th? 16th century, because it took place in 1592, I think. So, okay, you could just do the quick research, because according to the history, the king, Seonjo, sent delegates, basically 사절단 delegates to Japan to see if Japan had any hostile intention against Joseon dynasty. They wanted to know if indeed Japan was trying to invade Korea pretty soon. So they sent a delegate. And, about 3 months later, they came back and they reported their findings in front of the king. And then there are two delegates and they disagreed, okay? They were given opportunity to freely speak their views in front of the king. And the king's cabinet disagreed. Of course, the pacifists, basically, the people who think that Japanese will not invade Korea, prevailed. So they didn't do anything about their national security. So what happens next? Japanese invaded Joseon dynasty, Joseon, and the king fled the country. And many people, civilians, just got massacred, not for their fault. So in this historical case, you could also talk about disagreement among politicians or political leaders. And if you see if the disagreement necessarily leads to peaceful outcomes, anything good come out of it, this is how you could disagree. No, I disagree. Just because people discuss certain issues over time does not mean that we could get good, positive outcomes out of it all the time. History is full of exceptions, folks. This is what I mean by discussing concrete examples. And I think if you talk about this briefly, maybe 15 to 20 lines is good enough. So now I can see, I think you know what I mean by providing concrete examples. This is how you write an excellent essay. You just don't play with words. Okay, this is what I mean by concrete examples. Now, the next point is many of you just ignored some key words. So whenever you see in the essay prompt, education, progress, happiness, success, don't ever think that you understand these words correctly. Whenever Koreans tend to think, oh, education plays a crucial role in person's success. Many of you ignore, however, the crucial question. Many think that they ended up writing about formal education, going to school, advancing to college, taking tests, getting good grades. But who says education just means receiving school education, getting getting past the grades and education means also learning, self-learning. If you really want to get mature, you don't have to always go to school. How? Just think about many people like, I just briefly mentioned like Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln never attended any kind of public schools. He was self-educated. Many famous novelists in Korea were self-educated. Yeah, they learned by experience. They just learned by reading books. They never had to go to colleges or high schools. This is what I mean by basically narrowing down. When you see the word education, do not think that the education has the fixed meaning. Education means, going to school, going to university, passing tests to get a qualification. No. It also means self-learning. So you choose to write about self-learning. Let me pick what about success. When you see the word success, many people think that, the topic is about success, but what success? Many people in this country seem to think that by success, they mean material success. You become famous and you have made a lot of money. Yeah, but many people still around the world consider success as a purely, a pure progression or the process of self-realization. You find who you are. Okay, so even if you do not become famous, you do not make a lot of money, you still consider yourself successful. Yes, because you came to know who you are. You realize that your life is meaningful. Okay, so even the word success doesn't have a fixed meaning. When you see success differently, that's where creativity comes in. If you just think success has a fixed meaning, there's no room for creativity. Who says success has only means material success? No. Now, this is why when you're writing an essay, you're not supposed to actually provide a definition from dictionary. You never have to use any dictionary at all. Why? Because when you use certain names or words such as success, some people actually do not use success as some word with a fixed meaning. You could evenly think of people say, oh, for me, success is I found out what I really want to do and I'm doing it. For me, that's a success. Yes. Okay, that's why you don't have to look for a dictionary at all. And if you put down in your essay a definition taken from dictionary, you're actually ruining your essay. Because think about it. If you're writing something that could be easily copied from internet resources, how do you think that you could be creative? What people want to know is how you think about success. What success means to you, not what success according to the dictionary mean to you. No. So you are actually free in basically determining a unique meaning for success, because for me, success is this, very different from what most people think about it. Now, the next step is I say, do not use the same pronouns such as they, we, you repeatedly. Yes. Well, one of the easiest ways to avoid these words is to use passive voice. Yeah. They believe, oxygen is the cause of combustion. Say then, oxygen was believed to be the cause of combustion. You could use passive voice. You don't see any they, we people or scientists. So basically, when you try to make a better essay, you have to avoid using the same pronouns, they, we, you. Yeah, some good essays don't even have you or they no more than 3 times, no more than 3. Yes, actually, you could write like that, yeah, without using repeatedly they, we, and you. Yeah, because many of you just used you, they, we, like 30, 40 times. Yeah, so just avoid it. And yeah, in my session, I'm going to teach you how to easily and effectively avoid using these pronouns. Now, finally, what you fail to do in your essays is many people just put down sentences one after another. But for me, it's like you're building a house with bricks without using mortar or cement. Then if a pig, a wolf comes along and just whoof, the house will crush. Okay, yeah. Basically, even between sentences, you have to use some transitional words or connectives such as likewise, thus, accordingly, obviously, for these reasons. Yeah, these are semantics that makes the transition of sentences smooth. And this is how you do it when you try to avoid repetition. This is just an example here, okay? Because many of you just put down and but so many times. Well, many, 학원 instructors in Korea say, I use however. However, I have a different idea, okay? Now, for example, this is how to eliminate and. Here's a sample sentence. She was doing her math homework and she was listening to music. Now, the second was is omitted because you do not have to repeat the same verb. In this case, was when the subject is the same. But many students still end up using and. But this is not enough. You could still eliminate and this is how you do it. Basically, she was doing her math homework, comma, listening to music. You could easily, simply just remove and. And this is actually a more sophisticated expression. Grammatically correct, yes, yes. And we just call this portion what? Some people call it a gerund sentence or participle sentence. Now, it's not a coincidence that almost all the essays are missing participle sentences. Yes. So you end up using and but so many times, repetition. Yeah. Second, try not to use pronouns repeatedly. Yes, I told you already that you should avoid using basically same pronouns over and over. For instance, it says, because they want to lead a successful life, they try hard. Now, you notice that pronoun they have been used twice. You should go further. Okay? Yeah, you could just leave out the first they pronoun. Then you get this, wanting to lead a successful life, they try hard. So when you get here, you could actually omit at least one pronoun. It's much better than the first one. Yeah, if you happen to read, very well-written novels, okay, or famous academics like Jared Diamond or Kahneman, you'll notice that they use these kind of expressions quite frequently. Yes, so this is where you're heading for. Okay, this is not good enough because you are students. You are basically trying to accomplish as much as you want, such that when you move to the next level, okay, you should concentrate on basically the content. Yeah. After all, the writing is like a ladder. It's a tool you use to climb up the high place. Yeah. So by the time you graduate from high school, you should be able to use this tool very effectively, such that your thinking should not be encumbered with your writing. Your writing should be much better, such that you could freely express whatever you have in mind. Okay, let me stop and read some responses or reactions here. Someone says, do absurdists, oh wow, you think it's absurdists. You think philosophers are all absurdists? Many people once believed that Einstein was full of nonsense. Okay, yeah, just read more books. Also believe that meaning to life is self-realization. Well, if you live in a capitalist, country, you should say so. Yes, but Albert Camus. Well, I do not actually agree with whatever Albert Camus said. Just because Albert Camus is a famous existentialist doesn't mean that whatever he wrote or whatever he said is correct. No, if you're a scholar, okay, if you're a learning student, you should be open to all thinking, modes of thinking. So, well, I do not agree with Albert Camus, but, if you happen to read many books written by actually basically other authors, such as, like Somerset Maugham, or I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, like say French authors such as Gustave Flaubert, or famous one, James Joyce. Well, you should say that meaning to life is not something everybody agrees upon. You get to decide. Yeah, you get to decide. Yeah. So you have to make own meaning to your life eventually. If you just follow what others do, you never get satisfied. Whatever, there are many views upon this issue, basically, basically, that's why when you're a student, you have to read as many books as possible. Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of, I'm really dismayed, while I'm teaching in South Korea, because I know that many middle school and high school students in the US and Britain are reading many books. So, they're freely actually choosing their own way, to their own success, just because, yeah, materialistic success and fame. Well, some disagree. If you happen to read some books written by Salvador Dali or some, essays by Pablo Picasso, well, you'll be surprised, actually, what they say in their essay. Oh, there's another question. Do most scholars detest postmodernism? Not most. I see many scholars in Europe tend to support postmodernism, whereas many English-speaking, basically scholars in the United States or Great Britain, yeah, they tend to detest, postmodernism. Some think that the postmodernism is full of nonsense, but be careful here, because if you advance to, say, Yale University, majoring in English literature or history, you will find many professors actually siding with postmodernism. It's up to you whether you want to study there or not. I mean it. Famous philosophical books you recommend? As an introduction, I don't know. I mean, many philosophy books are extremely difficult. Oh my God. I think I haven't got to like discussing individual essays here, but anyway, probably some of you got kind of, bored with my purely academic, maybe nonsense here. Anyway, let me just answer some questions. Oh yeah, I heard that Yale is going to ban Shakespeare. Yes, yeah, and because Shakespeare is not real. Shakespeare is not a real person. It's probably the pen name used by several different authors. That's why these are fake. There's no authenticity, or basically Shakespeare is glorifying some old, ancient regime style thoughts. Anyway, just eventually you'll be freely choose to do, these views in the college. Yes, and you find, just don't think that I'm just the person representing whole issues. When you advance to, say, Yale or Princeton, you will face some professors that are full with writings, knowledge, experience, and you are supposed to confront them with evidence. So be prepared, okay? Yeah, be prepared. That's why you're going to have to read a lot of books and you're going to have to write a lot of essays. It's a training exercise. It takes many years because you're whatever, the professor you'll end up confronting in colleges are not easy to defeat. Okay? Yeah. Anyway, we don't have to discuss this all here because I'm not the person you have to argue with, basically. I do not represent some schools of Shakespearean literature. I'm not. Anyway, Socrates, yes, some say dialogues of Socrates. Yes, I think so. Yeah, Republic is a good start. Yes, the Republic, or you could start, I think generally works by Aristotle are pretty tough. Some grad students and professors start reading those work by Aristotle because it's because of the language. But I would say, it's relatively easy to understand Socrates. But anyway, one thing I could recommend is translated in Korean. It's available everywhere, but it's always available in English. But its original author was French, whose name is Michel Montaigne. He is from 16th century, just before the time of René Descartes. So his book is The Meditations. It's a beautiful book. Yes. He discusses all kinds of issues that confront humanity. Yeah. So that'll give you some insights and deep thoughts. Probably that's a good book for you to lead you to the realm of philosophy. Or there's another one with a similar title, like The Meditation by actually the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Yeah, it was a Roman emperor, but he belonged to the school of Stoics. So he spent all his life, commanding the war because his father actually led many wars, such that Aurelius, the son, had to basically put an end to all the wars, and he ended up basically commanding his own troops in the field instead of living a luxury life in the castle or in the mansion at all. But when he was in the field, in the tent, he wrote a book on philosophy, and it's also called The Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. It's another good book, and it was published almost 2,000 years ago. Yes, but it's still good. Yeah, it weathered the time very well. So many people still find his view very attractive and resonant with wisdom and deep thoughts. Okay, passive voice. It's like this. It's easy. Americans elected Joe Biden the 44th president of the US. This is an active voice. Passive voice means Joe Biden was elected the 44th president of the US. Yeah. So everybody think that eating dirty food is unhealthy. Then if you turn it into a passive voice, eating or consumption of unhealthy food is believed to be unhealthy. That's a passive voice. Then when you put down a passive voice sentence, you don't have to use any pronouns at all. Okay? Well, somebody interested in Nietzsche really is beyond good and evil. Jenseits von Gut und, yeah. I read it when I was a high school kid. Tough to read? No. In English, yeah, it's originally in German, but in English version, it's not tough to read. If you're familiar with many classical novels, you should be able to follow. Yes, it's not thick. I think it's about 300 pages long. Yes. Walter Kaufmann. Yes. Wow. Walter Kaufmann is the definite authoritative expert in Nietzsche. He translated all his work into English, he's the best translator, and he himself was the philosopher in existentialism. Yeah, good to go. Fahrenheit 451 by Red. Yeah, highly recommended. Yeah, some say it's philosophical, but it's a good form of literature as well. Just like Brave New World or 1980 by Orwell is a thought-provoking philosophical novel. Okay, would you write like Nietzsche? How for well, to be honest, if you're gonna write like Nietzsche, you will not get a good admission to any good universities because his method is unique. You are a student, okay? In an American or British educational systems, many students are strongly advised to write like academic. There's a rules to follow. So, and the writing style of Nietzsche is far from, say, clear and argumentative. Okay, so just because someone is a well-reputed, well-known philosopher doesn't mean that you have to mimic him. For instance, when the essay was as a must for SAT takers in the 2007, 2008, there was a guideline, official guideline issued from ETS. ETS has been making SAT tests, okay? And they said, because so many students are puzzled, like, what is the grading process? What kind of person should I copy if I'm gonna be a good writer, blah, blah, blah. So ETS released the official announcement in which they said, if you write like Ernest Hemingway, you'll just get C. You'll never get A because the writing style of Ernest Hemingway is not considered appropriate for scholars and learning students. Yeah. When I say academic essays, you do not just copy some well-known writers like novelists in particular, okay? Oh yeah, I'm kind of dragged around. Okay, let me just go on. Let me go down to specifics. Yeah, here's one. Let me just point out the first one. This student says, Mahatma Gandhi once said, quote, honest disagreement is often a good sign of progress, unquote. Now, in academic essays, you should not use direct quotes unless you're asked to present yourself in the court. Yeah, I mean it. I'm not just making this up. When you write an academic essay, you have to use reported speech. So you should remove quotation marks. So I should say, Mahatma Gandhi once said that honest disagreement is often a good sign of progress. The same because, this is like a truth. So this is an exception. But if it's just like his view, then Mahatma Gandhi once stated that honest disagreement was often a good sign of progress, period. Okay. Now, if you take a look at this, it begins with, even though we realize it. Now, this begins with even though, then realize it or not. Well, whether you like it or not is the right way of phrasing it, even though it doesn't match the frame of you really, A, either or B, okay? A or B means you are to choose between the two. So it should be whether we realize it or not even though. So this is the error of connectives or, conjunction. Now he said, we often have disagreements in life. something that disagreement with others means trouble, while in fact, it is a necessary step needed for progress. Now, I'm going to stop and talk about this a bit because you might think that this is grammatically correct. It is not. Okay, here we're talking about, yes, we're talking about this. Yeah. Oh, oops, I think. Oh, this, Can I just get down this? Okay, over here. Sorry about this. Yeah. Something that while, then you said, he said, in fact, it is. Now, while is typically used for comparison. So usually the subject on one side and the other side should be the same. Here it says while, in fact, it is a necessary step. Here it begins with something. In this case, the scholars say the student is violating the parallelism. Yeah, basically it means that something that blah, 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 while others think blah, blah, blah is the natural course of the thought or the sentence. You don't say something that disagreement with others means trouble, while in fact, it is a necessary step. Unbalanced thought. Yeah, there's something wrong with the way the subject is presented here. So I'm not sure if the grammar check program will pick this up, but to my eyes and many other high school students and the professors in the US, this is wrong, okay? So you should say instead something that X, while others think that Y, instead of something X, while in fact it is necessary step. Actually, if you say like this, you're repeating already. You should move on. You should tackle another idea. Okay. And then let me talk about here. It begins with, the first sentence in the body is disagreement is needed for self-progress. It says not just progress, self-progress, but self-progress means, does self here mean individual, every individual in the world, or is just me? Yes. Yeah. What if, basically, I need it, but what if others don't need it? If this happens, you need evidence. This is why you're going to have to come up with some concrete evidence. In this case, you might use your personal experience. Yeah, personal experience. Say, yeah, 2 years ago, I had an argument with my friends over these issues. Yeah, there was a disagreement between me and him. Say, yeah, and then afterwards, I realized something. So you need to present your personal experience as evidence here. But instead, you say there are many people in different thoughts and perspectives. Yeah, we know that. Okay, and say being able to understand, sympathize with others has been starting to become. Now, the reason that I underline here is that the subject is too long. Good essays do not use long subjects. It is pretty long. Okay, this is something I'm going to have to teach you how to do this, being able to understand. Basically, maybe ability to understand and sympathize is better. Yeah, ability, maybe our ability, their ability, my ability, I don't know, but ability to understand and sympathize with others is better. Yeah. And then it follows by another sentence. People tend to be self-centered and not looking at our others. And not is replaced with without. Okay, because I just removed and without looking at others. But now, this is what I mean. This is the introduction part. This is what I call the body part. Now, once you get down to the body, you should stop talking about how the world is, what is happening now, because you don't have space for that. You are actually writing a 400-word essay, and it's not good enough for you to present your own ideas. Okay, so you need to concentrate on a specific, particular case. That's more convincing. Yeah, because if you keep saying this, many people say, yeah, this is what I think. Basically, he's just saying whatever I have in mind. Yeah. So it's more like a distraction here. And of course, I say digressing, because once you start here, you just go down to the heart of the topic. Yeah. Stop chasing. Get down onto business. Yeah. Get down to the business. Whether like disagreement, whatever it is, actually is necessary for progress. Okay. So basically, there is a pattern here. The student here says, if it's disagreement is blah, blah, blah. Here, disagreement is okay. Another predicate, disagreement is blah, blah, blah. Here, a disagreement, not only, Here, the student begins almost every sentence with a disagreement, repetition. Even if you write this essay in Korean language, I don't think anybody will say, oh, this is an excellent essay, because it's like 사랑은 이렇고요, 사랑은 저렇고요. Yeah, you just start every sentence with 사랑 if the topic is about love. Okay, so you keep using the word 사랑 over and over and over again. The better method would be maybe just use 사랑 once or twice. Yeah, and you get down to specifics. Yeah, this is why this is a typical issue with an essay like this, when students start with the same noun. In this case, disagreement. In each line here, disagreement is this, agreement, disagreement is this. Okay, then you won't be able to use a variety of sentences. Basically, a good essay should feature a variety of sentences, basically sentences with a very different structures. Yes, A is B, A does B is a simplistic structure. Okay, so, and if you do this, many professors say, your discussion is not progressing. Yeah. What happens in the next phase? What happens next? Yeah. So in most cases, I put down repetition here because the story does not move on. It's circling around. Basically, here the author is mostly interested in disagreement only, but I think the author should spend more time discussing what he means or she means by self-progress. What is self-progress? Yeah. What he means by self-progress? Yeah. Is it the same as self-realization I just mentioned about 1 hour ago? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so as you can see, basically, you see my comments like repetition, because like agreement can become, agreement can cause, agreement, disagreement is the source of. The key issue is how, in this case, agreement, among whom, by the way, is related to self-progress. By the way, is self-progress something I know other people can see. How do you prove to others? Oh, because of the disagreement, I make some progress. How do you convince others? How do they know? That's also the issue here. Yeah. Okay, so in this essay, repetition is the main issue here because the prominent structure of the sentences here is mostly about disagreement is, suppose that disagreement is A, then A is B, A is C, A is D. Repetition of the same structure. Yeah. So these students should be able to bring in a different structure here. Yeah. Another essay. Oops. Okay. Here, this essay begins with this. The first line is, progress means forwarding or onward movement toward the goal or destination. Yeah, looks like to me a kind of definition you could find in a dictionary. Yeah. Number one, actually, many teachers will tell you whether you're studying in the US or Great Britain that you should not give any dictionary definition in your essay. This is not about definition. This is about what your idea is about this issue. What do you think? Okay. Do you agree or disagree? And why? Yeah. And you need to support your answer by providing a concrete experience, historical event, or scientific truth. Yes. So basically, if you present a definition or something that is similar to a definition, you're actually wasting your precious space. Yeah. And of course, it's much better off for you to start with, I'm going to concentrate on political progress in answering my question. So you narrow down in the beginning. So basically, I'm just talking about social progress, or I'm just talking about scientific progress. Okay. Here, and then, okay, it's just a grammatical issue. You don't use disable pronoun from. It should be prevent people from. Okay, it's a typical. But here, now this is the typical expression I get to see from other essays here as well. The reason is when you compose a sentence, you should not mix one with other pronouns. So once you use everyone, yeah, it's a notorious issue now because everyone it means actually all. But in itself, everyone means a singular term. So in the past, people had to choose between he or she. Now, many people say when you use everyone, they use pronoun they. That's okay. But here, you use one here. When you use everyone, you cannot use one in the same sentence. So this is more issue about agreement of pronouns. Now, and then here, this is about content. Yeah. The author says here, the honest debate over progress can lead to development because it allows everyone's opinion to be included. Yes, grammatically speaking, there's nothing wrong here. No mistakes. However, if you really have to think seriously about this, if you have an honest debate, okay, such that the debate included everyone's opinion, Okay, then here, if you go down here, okay, then it said, yeah, if you go on with it, then eventually you have, you get open-mindedness, as it's like an open-mindedness, and open-mindedness brings better collaboration, okay? And then basically good outcome, yeah, resulting in higher productivity. Listen, what kind of higher productivity are we talking about here? Yeah, making more cars or making people more money. Yeah. Whenever you have an honest debate, does that always lead to a good result? No. Yeah. We see this all the time. Okay. Some people just disagree forever until they die. Yeah. They never give up. Yeah, you can see this from religious people all the time. I'm not saying negatively about these people though. Yeah, if you believe in some religion, they never accept other kinds of beliefs. So even if you discuss with them honestly, say, yeah, I don't really think that God exists. So you present all kinds of evidence. Do you eventually convince them? Okay, yeah. Can you actually stop religious wars with honest discussion? So here, this is my criticism. Here, this student says, honest disagreement is like magic formula. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But if you take a look at human history, it's far from it. Yeah, far from it. Yeah. If you're honest with your Christian belief, the others are honest about Muslim beliefs, and they start killing each other. Yeah, both are honest with their own religious belief. Can you stop the war between them? We do not always succeed in stopping them. We do make failures. Sometimes we make a success, yes. So this is too strong a claim here, too strong. That's why you should provide a specific example to support your specific answer. This is too broad. Your answer is too broad. This is why this idea is circling around. It doesn't move forward, okay? Basically, my comment is, if people share honest disagreement, okay, debate, do people always end up with a happy and come up with a happy ending? Yeah. Do we always succeed? Now, if you want to avoid this repetition, the best method is to provide a concrete example. Yeah. If you think honest debate indeed lead us to a huge progress, okay, what kind of progress, by the way? Social progress, moral progress, scientific progress? Then you should choose a single event that shows that, yes, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. We did get a very good outcome from open, honest debate for many years. And at least it says it does work sometimes. But it seems as if the way the student put an answer here is honest debate over progress can lead to means it could fail. But the question is necessary, very strong. You know, can and necessary is not the same. So there's a difference. Yeah. If somebody say disagreement can, yeah, lead to a progress, when someone else say disagreement is necessary for progress, are these two claims the same? No. quite different. When you say disagreement is necessary for progress, this is much stronger than the claim that disagreement can lead to a progress. Now, this essay, okay, let's take a look. I just corrected some expressions here that are awkward. These are not serious issues, though. This is part of my job to teach natural and smooth expressions. So if you take a look at this is too heavy-handed, like cause further conflicts and negative consequences. And then it says arguments have rooted back from people's opinions not being able to align. This structure is overly convoluted, complex, and not clear. So you need to simplify it. Basically, arguments stem from people's failures, failure to align with opinion of others. Yeah, and that's a slightly better expression. And then this is one of the important things I need to discuss today. Here, it says, without making disagreement. Okay, let me just use this. This is it, yeah. Without making agreement, comma, our knowledge of science and the application of it would not have been able to go this far. Okay, I have no issue with the content, but if you take a look at the sentence, it begins with without making disagreements. Now, obviously, the subject in front of making is omitted. No problem, it's okay, yeah. However, when you omitted the subject, the omitted subject should occur in the beginning of this main sentence, and you have to. But you put our knowledge of science and the application of it. Basically, yeah, is say our knowledge. If this is correct, then actually it means that without our knowledge making disagreement is the correct expression. Yeah. So making, the verb making is without the subject, right? Because it is omitted. So the omitted subject should occur here. So if our knowledge of science is the correct subject, then you are saying that basically without, okay, basically without our knowledge making disagreement. It's okay. I mean, you might think that this is grammatically incorrect, but anyway, what I mean is that our knowledge is actually the subject for making disagreement. Wait a minute. Our knowledge is able to make disagreements, not people. Our knowledge is like an independent being. I think when we say making disagreement, the hidden subject is people, we, right? We or people or they, right? However, the subject here is our knowledge. So, in this sense, because making is an act, okay, it refers to an action. So before this, something like an animal, people should be put in here. But the abstract things such as our knowledge cannot come here between without and making. If you do, it'll make absurd. It sounds really absurd. So whenever this is a very common mistake made by high school students in the US. Yes. This is typically called a dangling modifier. Modifier usually means making, she is busy, is a modifier. Dangling modifier means basically body is dangling on the ceiling without the head. Yeah, like a beheaded body. Then what do? If you want to keep this portion, you have to put, instead of our knowledge, a subject that matches making. So instead of our knowledge, you should put, we could not have been able to make this far. You should completely have to change it because there's no agreement between subjects here. So this should be people, like we, scientists, people, they, whatever, not our knowledge. This is a prime example of dangling modifier. Most common mistakes committed by, high school students in the US or Great Britain in an advanced level. Yeah, but very important issue in the grammar. Okay, this student put scientific researches. There's some words that do not have plural forms. One of them is research. You do not put S here, research. I'll get to that later. One of the issues among 7 essays I have read is the lacking of this relative pronouns, like with which, of which, which. This actually combines long sentences, providing a smooth and good flow. But many students just stop and start a new sentence. It is kind of abrupt. So sometimes you have to use relative pronouns such as which, where, when, or that. Usually a very good essay contains at least 4 or 5 relative pronouns. Okay. Okay, this is another a prominent mistake made by many students here, which is many students use meaning, my action meaning, but there is a big difference between spoken English and written English. English is a kind of a unique language in the sense that written form is very different from actually spoken form. We are talking about written form here, academic writing. Then when you write an academic essay, people do not use meaning. 한국말로 즉이란 뜻이죠. Instead, you should use that is. Id est. EI is a Latin abbreviation. Id est. EIE, that is, namely, in other words. Okay. Instead of meaning. So through this last step, that is, or in other words, disagreements. Yeah. Anyway. Here, this author used innovation here, but it's not clear. What kind of innovation are we talking about? Yeah. He said, yeah, scientific and innovation, so to speak, but you could be a little bit more specific. What do you mean by scientific innovation? Like, what is it? Like relativity theory? Invention of atomic bomb, maybe? Yeah, quantum mechanics? Yeah. Some might think vaccines, yeah, or, treatment of, diseases. I'm talking about medicine here. Yeah. So not just innovations. What kind of innovations are you discussing here? Like medical innovations in particular, or innovations in physics, or technologies maybe? Cars, airplanes, computers? Yeah. You need to be more specific here. Because if you just keep saying disagreements and disagreements, many American authors and British have no idea where you're going. Yeah. Like, does it apply to like disagreement me and you? Is it talking about disagreement among scientists, politicians, religious people. Now here, this is what I mean by a good characteristic of a good essay. Yeah. So I gave this student actually 9 out of 12, which means that this student in writing skill is equivalent to at least middle to slight above middle level students, high school students in the US, 9th graders. I'm talking about native speakers here. Yeah. So when you get 9, this student's writing skill is equivalent to typical slight above average 9th graders in the US or Great Britain. Yes. Now here, I said, he's talking about apartheid. What is an apartheid? Yeah. It's a, like a, there was a, discrimination going on between the white people and the native Africans until like 1970s. Yes. Like many Black people, they're indigenous natives, but they were actually excluded from, voting and equal education, even though it's their country. White people are basically ruling the country, like Netherlands and some British, which call Boers. So some Black people fought against the discrimination, and it is called an apartheid. Yeah. So this student made an example here, which is apartheid. Yeah. Now I could see that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like about 6 lines. Yes, a little bit short. But if this student has presented like 9 or 10 lines of descriptions about apartheid, it could have fetched maybe 10 out of 12. Because for one example to be specific, it has to be at least 7 lines long. There's a general an agreement among science, like professors and teachers about this. Yeah. So if you say, is my example long enough? You could count the lines. How long? At least 9 lines. Okay, minimum. But you could go as much as 15 lines, and you could provide more details. This student did it anyway, a little bit too short, but still better than nothing. So basically, when this student wrote this student was talking about disagreement by which basically conflicts or segregations or discriminations among people, okay, in a certain society, in a certain time. So this is what I mean by concrete example, okay? This author picked up a historical incident or event from history. So it's a nice effort, much better than nothing. By doing this discussion becomes more specific because this discussion is putting into a context. Context in this case is a specific historical event. This is how you do it. You always have to provide a specific context. So yeah, some people here probably know that the apartheid was led by legendary person named Nelson Mandela. So if you put down Nelson Mandela here, like prominent figures and civilians such as Nelson Mandela, voila. Yeah, you had done a great job. This is learning, folks. Oh, okay. Okay, this is another example. Here, I picked up this issue. When you say necessary, what do you mean necessary? Well, as a philosopher, I could give you what it means accurately when you say A is necessary, which means if you do not have an agreement, you do not have a progress without exceptions, period. That's what it means by logic. Yeah, logically, many people say when A is necessary to B, which means if you do not have A, you do not have B all the time without exceptions. So when you just say it, it's not enough. What do you mean? What do you mean by necessary? If you agree with this, you have to come up with a very strong evidence, because the statement that disagreement is necessary to progress is a very strong claim. Yeah. So many people should say, not necessary, but we need it most of the times. Yes, that's a more like humble and well-adjusted opinion. Yes, like necessary means without exceptions. Well, if this is the case, human beings now have paradise on earth. Okay, whenever we had an agreement, we made a big progress. Wow, like, but what you look at us, yeah, many people still on earth do not agree upon climate change, right? So this must be a very strong claim here. Okay, so you need to be be careful. So in general, the sentences here in this essay are too strong. Yeah, too strong here, as if there is no exception. Yeah, too strong. When you provide a strong claim, you need a very strong evidence. It's up to you. Yeah, if you are not good enough, you better avoid it. You need to present a humble opinion instead, like not necessary, but sometimes, most times. This is what I mean by replacing common verbs. You don't use make, cause over and over again. You instead replace make with provide. Cause, yeah, cause is a very strong word. It also means without exception. So too strong, so usually say comparison exerts a negative influence on human beings. It's more humble and balanced expression. And then one of the key issues with the content here is that this student thinks that whenever we have a disagreement, we sure to have some progress. Honestly speaking, you do not have a universal law explaining human activities. We are talking about disagreement among whom? Humans. When you talk about human activities, there's always an exception. Okay, even scientific laws do have exceptions, folks. So even famous sociologists, psychologists, or economists do not dare to express strong universal opinions here. This is too strong. You need to be a bit humble, because if you present a strong opinion, you have to present strong evidence as well. It's up to you. The proof of burden lies on you, not professors or teachers reading your essay. Yeah, that's why you need to be academically serious about this. Yeah, you need to be a little bit serious about this issue. Yeah, many students just keep using help. I suggest using promote or conducive to. And then the issue is, expressions are being repeated over and over again. And I said, yeah, this sounds harsh, but, given the strong answer, this student failed to provide a strong evidence, support. The support is lacking here. So I consider this answer empty. Yes, because you need to explain what you mean by necessary without exceptions. So all the time, whenever we have A, we always have B. Wow, seems to be a very strong claim for humanity. Yeah, because if you look at history, there are full of exceptions. And finally, this is the last essay. Let me just briefly pick up certain things. Many students tend to use the word thing, negative thing. Now, we need to be a little bit specific. What about thing? What are I talking about? Negative thing. Are we talking about behaviors, things, really physical things, ideas, events? In this case, I think conflict to be a negative event or experience. Okay, yeah, you need to be a bit more specific. Thing is too general. Okay, sport is a funny thing. No, sports are funny activities. Activities. We are talking about human activities, not physical things. So sports are, exciting things to me. Then you should, in a written essay, should say, I consider sports exciting activities. This is what I mean by academic essays. So here, many people say disagreement is necessary for progress or progression. It's okay, but is it time for us to change this expression? What do you mean A is necessary for B? We have a very good substitute. You say disagreement is indispensable for B. Indispensable means you have to have it. You gotta have it all the time. So when you replace necessary with indispensable, it becomes a little bit different. Yeah, because you have just avoided repetition again. Yeah, anyway, generally the content and the expressions in this essay is very similar to the first and the second essays I discussed earlier. And then, there's no discussion of progress here. What kind of progress are we talking about? Historical progress, moral progress, scientific progress, social progress? Or do you believe that you cannot basically distinguish between progress? You cannot divide progress, strictly speaking. If you think so, you could have some discussions here. Okay, yeah. Basically, you cannot divide social progress from scientific progress. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good thought you could put into this essay. Okay, that shows that you're thinking. Okay, yeah, I think we have passed like 10 minutes beyond 5. Okay, so I think I'm going to have to stop here. But general line is many essays here show a typical problems which involve repetition, basically repetition of the same words, same verbs, nouns, ideas, when you get to use a variety of words. Yes, and that's my basic tackle on these essays. All right, thank you for bearing, being tolerant of me for the past 2 hours or so. But there are too many to deal with. But this is what I'm going to do with every essay you tender every week after each topic given out to you. I pick out all the mistakes, problems first, and I talk about each problems step by step from basic level all the way to the most advanced level, because I cannot discuss everything at the same time. So I think this is the wrap up for my analysis of these essays today. Okay, just let me stop. Okay, you could ask me some questions. We don't have much time left, but anyway, on the time being, let me just take a look at some questions. Okay, there's is Economist a hard magazine to read? It's a good magazine to read, yeah, if you're learning to write an academic essay, but as the title suggests, it's a little bit too narrow. If you think you should be able to write about history, politics, yeah, moral issues, maybe just reading Economist is a little bit too narrow, I should say. Yeah. You should expand your reading list a little bit. Otherwise, your skill may not be as comprehensive as you wish to be. With this course help for rising sophomores attending international students? Sophomores, I need to be a bit more, you need to be a little bit more specific because sophomores could mean sophomores in high school or sophomores in college. High school, sure. Yeah, when I say advanced level include actually college level, and college level include, the top schools, basically. Yeah, that's my goal. Like when you follow my method, you should be able to write just as well and excellently as very academically excellent students at, say, Princeton or Yale or Harvard. You can do it because many of my students in the US did it. So it includes, but I think I tried it before. Like fifth grader in elementary school once took my lesson. Yes, after 2 years, he could easily beat college students. Yeah, it's not for everyone, but you could be taking this course if you're a sixth grader in elementary school, but mostly middle school and high school students are strongly recommended to take this course because my level goes up way up. Concord review. Too specific, too narrow. Yeah, that's my response. All righty. I'm so sorry that I spent too much time rambling on, but I showed you almost everything. This is what you hear on the screen. Basically, this is what I'll do to your essay you turn in every week. And of course, during my office hours, you could basically ask me specific questions. What do you mean by this? How do I do better with these kind of problems? Is there any other books or grammar book I need to take a look at? Whatever. I could give you some tips and advice as you need to tackle this, because you see many corrections, right? This is a typical load for me. I could make more, usual. So anyway, yeah, I could be this brutal. Okay, yeah. So I'm not just correcting grammatical errors. I also suggest styles and content. What kind of examples should you look for? History, philosophy, science, like chemistry, physics, biology? Yes. So basically, I'll teach you how to conduct research when you write an academic essay. Yeah, I'm not just correcting your grammatical errors. I move on to suggesting your styles you find suitable, fitting your actually level or education, and finally content, because Eventually, an excellent essay should provide excellent evidence. We're thinking like some kind of a scientist. Yes, even philosophers in Britain and US think and work like scientists. Yes, that's true. Yeah, 21st century philosophers are much closer to scientists than you think, because we also do the job of providing evidence to support our philosophical ideas. Okay, that's all for it, folks. Thank you.
교수님, 제가 지금 final words를 해도 될까요? Can I give the final words?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, guys, thank you for joining. I hope that you have taken away a lot from Professor Choi. Just from seeing on the screen, look at the amount of detail that he goes into in terms of making the modifications and giving feedback. I mean, this is, like he said, college level feedback, right? And next week, we're going to be doing a seminar. So I'm going to talk in Korean for just a little bit in case there are any parents here. 다음 주에는 저희가 뮤랭아카데미 저희 이제 새 학기가 시작하니까 신학기 설명회를 진행을 하게 될 거예요. 다음 주 토요일 아마 같은 시간인 걸로 알고 있는데 아마 오후 3시부터 5시 그걸 공지를 해드릴 거예요. 네, 카톡 채널로. 그래서 그 요일과 시간을 그걸 보시고 다음 주에는 이제 저희가 얘기를 할 게 이제 그 SAT 관련해서 로드맵 짜기. SAT 리딩이랑 SAT 문법을 어떤 방식으로 지금 1년 동안 공부를 해야 되는지, 지금 아마 듣고 있는 학생들 중에서 중고등학생들이 아마 대부분일 텐데 중학생들도 있겠죠. 근데 이제 1년 동안 어떻게 SAT를 태클을 하는 게 제일 좋을지, 제가 지금 그리고 최순필 교수님도 이제 SAT 리딩을 가르치실 텐데 저희가 짜고 있는 커리큘럼이 어떻게 되는지 아마 궁금하실 것 같아서 그거에 대해서 이제 세밀하게 들어서 설명을 해드릴 거예요. 왜 이렇게 공부하는 게 제일 좋을지에 대해서. 그리고 에세이 라이팅도 지금 커리큘럼을 저희가 짰어요. 그래서 최순필 교수님 같은 경우에는 이제 조금 더 고등 레벨, 조금 더 대학 레벨에서 가르치실 거고, 조금 더 어드밴스 레벨. 저 같은 경우에는 이제 전체적인 스트럭처, 빅픽처를 보는 그 중등 레벨에서 가르칠 거예요. 왜냐면 전체적인 빅픽처, 스트럭처, 플로우 이런 게 안 돼 있는 상태에서 문장 속에 들어가서 단어 고치기 이런 게 의미가 없거든요. 그래서 그런 것들도 저희가 조금 세밀하게 들어가서 설명을 해드릴 테니까 다음 주에 꼭 들어오셔서 저희 이제 로드맵 설계 관련돼서 들어보시고, 그리고 또 저희가 또 얘기할 게 아이비리그 입시 트렌드 지금 화면에 떠 있는데 지금 요즘에 아이비리그 진학 대비 어떻게 준비를 해야 되는지, 뭐 보딩스쿨 어떻게 준비를 하는지, 그 다음에 입시 전략 이런 것들에 대해서 저희가 많이 그 설명을 드릴 테니까 관심을 많이 가져주시고요. 저희가 이걸 공지를 해드릴 테니까 꼭 다음 주에 뵙도록 하겠습니다. 그 다음 주 거는 저희가 이제 영어로 하는 게 아니고 영어랑 한국말을 같이 섞어서 할 거예요. 네, 그래서 학부모님들도 같이 참석을 해주시면 학생들이랑 좋을 것 같아요. 그래서 오늘 이렇게 긴 시간 저희 최순필 교수님 에세이 라이팅 무료 특강 들어주셔서 너무 감사하고요. 다음 주에 저랑 그다음에 최순필 교수님이 저희 뮤랭아카데미 신학기 그 설명회를 진행하도록 하겠습니다. 오늘 너무 감사하고요. 혹시라도 궁금한 사항 있으시면 저희 카톡 채널로 문의 남겨주시기 바랍니다. 네, 감사합니다. 오늘
네, 감사합니다.
네, 다음 주에 뵙겠습니다.
그러니까 이제 모르겠어. 주위에 그런 사람들이 많을 수도 있고 아버지가 뭐 교수거나 주위에 뭐 유학 가가지고 뭐 그런 사람들이 있거나 학교 다니는데 그런 애들이 있거나 그런 거지. 주소 들은 게 많을 수도 있는데 태도로 보면은 애카데믹하긴 해.
그러게 또 생각보다 되게 그런 질문을 해갖고 사실 그게 지금 내용이랑은 어떻게 보면
전혀
직접적인 게
관련
아니고
없어. 사실은
아니건데
뭐
그래서 좀
그
놀랐어.
뭐 예를 들어서 뭐 예일 대학이 뭐 그 뭐 셰익스피어를 없앴다는 이런 거는 예, 그거 맞아. 이 포스모던 하는 교수들이 이거 저기 여성에 대한 반여성적 지금 그런 게 벌어지고 있어. 거기 교수들이 다 동조하는 건 아니야. 근데 이게 여교수들이 지금 좀 심해. 그러니까 소위 말하는 과거를 다 쓸어버리자 이거야. 그래서 셰익스피어도 거기 들어가. 이게 셰익스피어가 영향력이 크잖아. 근데 이 사람 때문에 그 남자 지식인들이 그 여성에 대한 어떤 이런 그 뭐라 그러나 그 차별을 더 이렇게 무의식적으로 강화했다는 그런 식의 주장을 피우는 거야. 그러니까 없애는 게 나아 이렇게 되는 거거든. 근데 이제 문제는 뭐냐? 이게 그러면 그 아주 처절하고 끔찍한 역사는 가르치지 말자는 얘기냐라는 결국은 들어가. 이게 학교는 그럴 수 있어. 중고등학교는 애들이 좀 센시티브하니까 그럴 수 있는데 여기는 애카데믹이거든. 그러니까 애카데믹은 나쁜 거나 이거 있으면 골라서 볼 수 있는 거거든. 그래서 셰익스피어를 차라리 비판적으로 가르치는 게 낫지. 이걸 아예 없애버리자? 좀 극단적이야. 그래서 여기 요즘에도 인터넷 나오지만 왜 북한에서 넘어간 여자애가 콜롬비아 때 그 얘기가 맞기는 맞아. 그러니까 실망하는 거야. 나쁜 것도 가르쳐야지 좋은 것도 가르치고 근데 막 일방적으로 그냥 이거는 politically incorrect 하니까 이거는 무조건 그 커리큘럼을 빼버려야 되고 가르치면 안 되고 무시해야 되고 그런 거 얘기해 지금.